for growth, all while making an incredible living. Right now is the perfect time to join the team at Town Square Media as a marketing consultant. Join one of the fastest growing digital companies in America where you get to help build client solutions with real local influencers and sell brands like TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. If this sounds exciting to you, let's have a conversation. Our comp package is amazing with unlimited earning potential, including base salary, mobile phone, auto expense, 401k match, trip incentives, and more. If you're competitive, driven, and have the ability to communicate great ideas, we'd love to hear from you. With digital advertising expected to double over the next 3 years, the timing could not be better. Reach out to Mike Rubel, Market President, at 609-910-5249 or visit careers.townsquaremedia.com. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
With all the sports we have, every time of the year is the best time of the year.
And the crowd just buzzing with excitement.
On 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square Media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
What a wild, wild weekend. Pro Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The Phillies sweep the Nationals, which they really should. Eagles had over 30,000 people show up yesterday for a practice where a third of the team didn't even do anything. And Pete Rose happened. So we got a lot to get through this hour here on Game Night. Josh Hennig hanging out with you at a Monday edition on 97.3 ESPN. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press, he was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. We'll get into all that with him, plus the latest around the NFL, get his perspective on a bunch of things. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. That is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Of course, also on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app is where you can qualify for Mike Gill to announce your name on the air, because we're only picking certain people. There's a bunch of people who want to go, and you could be one of them. The Garden State Brewing on Friday, August 26th. Philly Sports Trip is giving away a trip to go see the Washington Commanders take on the Eagles. But you got to have 97.3 ESPN mobile app to DM the show or to qualify. Keep listening to the Sports Patch Mike Gill for more details on how you can win. All right. I'm going to get to first the stuff on the field. All right. And then I'll get to the stuff off the field, because if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I am completely burned out and over all this Pete Rose talk. I feel like it's stuff we keep every time Pete Rose opens his mouth, makes his appearance, there's some variation of it somewhere. But the Phillies did just sweep the Nationals. The Phillies have now won, I believe, 10 of their last 11, 10 of the last 12 games. That's where my focus is. The Pete Rose stuff, I'm not talking about it off the top of the show, because that's an insult to everybody out there. I'm not going to insult you or anybody else by bringing that up first, because what I am going to bring up is the fact that the Phillies are a winning baseball team. But you wouldn't know it by the attendance figures. Yes, that's where I'm going to go with this. You see, over the weekend, the Philadelphia Phillies had 4 games against the Nationals. And now they have a day off, and then a 3-game set versus the Marlins. Only one of those games did they crack 30,000 fans. Meanwhile, 30,000 people plus showed up to watch the Eagles practice on Sunday night. Now, there's a couple factors for why there wasn't a crazy number of people who showed up for these things. Number one, I think it's fair to say that in today's world, the reality is that people don't want to spend their money to sit out and bake in the heat when they could be doing something else. I think it's a huge, huge reason why they did not get the crowds on some of these days. Okay? Look, the Saturday game was 6:05. The Sunday game was 1 o'clock. I think the weather had a lot to do with both of those days. And I'm telling you right now, I know where the people were who were not at the baseball games. With 22,000 on Friday, 27,000 on Saturday, 28.6 thousand on Sunday. They were at the Jersey Shore. This was the worst traffic weekend that I've experienced in South Jersey this year, aside from Memorial Day weekend. Even July 4th was not that bad because July 4th didn't actually fall on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. It fell on Monday. So people kind of didn't come for the full weekend. They kind of came in like chunks. Like you had people who come maybe like, a Wednesday through Saturday, and they checked out. You had a group will come down for Saturday through Monday, then they checked out. So the crowds were a little more staggered, it felt like to me, on July 4th weekend. But Memorial Day weekend, it was just straight up. People were coming. And the same thing this weekend. You could tell there were a lot of people who left last weekend because they stayed for a couple weeks in July, and maybe they're getting ready to go back to college. Maybe they're getting ready to go back for whatever it may be. Maybe their jobs allow them a 2-week vacation. They took it in July instead of August, whatever it may be. But a lot of people came down to the shore. The traffic on Friday, Saturday was absolutely insane. People chose to spend their money at the Jersey Shore instead of going to a Phillies game. And frankly, I don't blame them. But it's also a shame. It's also a little disappointing because when the Phillies were good, when the Phillies were in that 2007 to 2012 run where they were selling outs and every night in, night out, you know what was happening? People didn't care about the weather. They didn't care about the heat. They weren't making business decisions with their economics. And if you're a Philadelphia sports fan and you have a choice between going to a Phillies game this weekend or the one Eagles open practice, you're probably going to the one Eagles open practice. And if you have a choice between spending your money at the Jersey Shore or going to one Phillies game, for some people, they will choose the Shore. Because going to a sporting event has become a major expense. And listen, I'm not trying to sound political. I'm not trying to sound, I have a conversation about society, but I'm being real with you guys. I think there's a lot of people who realize that they don't make enough money at their day jobs or their 2 jobs or however many jobs that they're holding down, that they look at baseball as an expense that they got to make decisions. Look, if you have the disposable income to go on a vacation or go to a Phillies game, I feel comfortable saying that the majority of people that I know would go on a vacation. Because a baseball game is one day, one night, one opportunity. And unless you are totally invested in going to a Phillies game consistently, like you have like partial season tickets or you have something along those lines, the value of the baseball experience is not going to outweigh the opportunity for you to drive down to the shore, wade through traffic on Friday, spend your evening in South Jersey, do whatever, go to the beach, do whatever you do on Saturday, stay through Sunday or Monday, and then go home. Look, the traffic is horrible, but the amount of money you're spending at the Phillies game, some of you are probably going to spend on a trip down to the Jersey Shore. To go to a baseball game with your family, let's say it's 2 parents and 2 kids, you're probably spending, if you're getting decent seats nowadays, you're probably spending close to $200 on just the tickets and the parking. For the 4 tickets for decent seats, and then the parking, you already are at around $200. And then to spend the money on concessions, your kid wants a hat or a jersey or a foam finger or whatever, you're hanging out around $400 or $500 to go to a baseball game now. And on a stinking hot weekend, look, I went somewhere this weekend where they were supposed to be outside for a concert, basically. Not a concert, but a music, artist was performing. Carly Maffa was in the area. She's a South Jersey alum. Williamstown. She was on American Idol. And I went with some people I knew to go see her perform. And they decided to put her indoors instead of outdoors because of how stinking hot it was. If that's the decision they're making in a situation like that, people are deciding not to go to a baseball game. And it's a shame because the Phillies are absolutely in fuego right now. Look, since Dave Robertson walked into that clubhouse, the Phillies have not lost a game. Yes, the Phillies have won 5 straight games since Dave Robertson and his blue cleats arrived on the scene. And even before that, the Phillies have lost a total of 2 games since they got swept by the Cubs coming out of the All-Star break. And their only losses have been to the Braves. Yeah, that Braves team. And you know who the pitcher for both of those games was? Strider. So you lost 2 games to the Braves' best pitcher. Otherwise, you're beating everybody. You're beating the Braves, you're beating the Pirates, you're beating the Nationals. But people aren't going to the game. Not like the Eagles, who watched Jalen Hurts throw a couple nice passes at that practice. And by the way, he was making those passes, no Dillard, no Mailata, because they're both out with concussions. I thought those foam-headed things were supposed to help with that. By the way, I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. As always, you can join the conversation. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. You also could DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up in about 7 minutes from now, we'll be joined by Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press Talk NFL and NFL training camps. We'll get into him about the Eagles and their upcoming first preseason game this Friday, which you can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. But I will address the Pete Rose stuff here. Look, this is not an excuse for what he said on air. When he was on the TV cast, I thought it was a bad job by NBC Sports Philadelphia to put him on there and not censor anything he said. I mean, you got to have a delay. You can't bring a uncouth old man like Pete Rose into a broadcast and not expect him to drop 2 expletives. I mean, you can't. You can't. That's a bad job by NBC Sports Philadelphia. Look, everyone can blame Pete Rose all they want. Pete Rose said this. Pete Rose said that. Pete Rose did this. But everyone else enabled him to do it. They let him go on the broadcast. They didn't have a delay. They let him talk to the media basically twice in the same day. They didn't have to do any of that, the Phillies or NBC Sports Philadelphia, but they did it. I knew who Pete Rose is. I know what he was probably going to say in situations. If I could have predicted it, why couldn't anybody else have? If somebody legitimately says, we didn't know this was going to happen, they're either lying to your face or they're the most naive people in the world. Because we all know what Pete Rose is. Look, Pete Rose is the all-time hits leader. Pete Rose is arguably one of the 100 greatest baseball players of all time. Pete Rose was a key part of the Phillies winning the World Series. According to MLB.com, the Phillies signing Pete Rose is the greatest free agent addition in the franchise's history. But we know who he is. He's not this generous human being. He's very selfish. He's very in his own little world. He doesn't care about anyone else but himself and getting attention. He's never been remorseful about anything he's ever said and done. He's never showed you any moment in time where he was going to be an upstanding citizen in an environment like that. So why are we surprised the way he talked to the reporters? Why are we surprised that he cursed not once but twice on a television broadcast of the Phillies on NBC Sports Philadelphia? Why are we not surprised? Why are anybody surprised? Why did anybody think that this was going to go any differently? So you can complain about Pete Rose all you want, but I blame the Phillies and I blame NBC Sports Philadelphia and anybody else involved in enabling this to happen. All right, back to the football next. People are saying a lot of things after Pro Football Hall of Fame weekend. We're getting into all of that right now. Coming up next, Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press. He was there. We'll ask him about it right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night.
You haven't downloaded the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app? Well, go get it now to follow all the Philly sports teams at 97.3ESPN.com. Powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Did you take those big down payments?
You're darn right I did.
Your Honor, he is breaking the laws of Springfield Mitsubishi, Atlantic City. They made it clear. It's a crime to pay more than a dime. Every new Mitsubishi, one dime down.
Take them away. And at Springfield Mitsubishi, Atlantic City, ask for credit amnesty.
If you bring home $350 a week, you could get up to $25,000 in credit. So, what's the beat on inventory?
Other dealers are struggling, but not Springfield Mitsubishi, Atlantic City.
40 new Outlanders in stock now.
An entire fleet of new and pre-owned.
New Mitsubishis from just $17,000.
It's a crime to pay more than a dime.
Every vehicle, one dime down.
At the all-new Springfield Mitsubishi, Atlantic City.
In Pleasantville.
They service all makes and models.
Springfield Mitsubishi AC.com. Springfield Mitsubishi AC.com.
New 22 Mirage, 16 Ford, 9 down, $249 a month for 72 months at 3% APR, plus tax tag title to qualified buyers.
Traffic.
Right?
This wagon commute is killing me. You mind if I turn on your old radio?
Oh, this song again. I swear they play the same 3 chants on every station.
At this rate, it's going to take a fortnight to get to work.
Well, just be glad you don't need to fill up. I mean, have you seen the price of hay?
Mm-hmm.
Throughout history, people have always hated to commute. That's why Monster lets you search work from home jobs. Find your job at monster.com or download the app.
Progressive Snapshot can save you money based on how you drive and how much you drive. So the safer you drive, the more money you could save. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were looking at your phone while driving, let me say it again. Seriously, put down your phone. That is so unsafe. If you didn't do stuff like use your phone while driving, you could save money with Progressive Snapshot. But saving or not, just put it down. And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't looking at your phone, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
Not long ago, I wouldn't even leave my house.
Addiction had such a hold on me.
I was a stranger in my own life.
My sister told me about 844-REACH-NJ.
I learned about medication that could support recovery.
And it's working for me.
With medication supporting my recovery, I'm moving forward.
844-REACH-NJ was my first step back into life.
And it feels amazing.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Call 844-REACH-NJ to learn about medication that can support your recovery. A message from the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to get conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Go to get your game on at the Gallery Bar Book and Games in Ocean Casino Resort this football season. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on a parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here on Game Night. Listen, football is here, man. And the Pro Football Hall of Fame ceremony was absolutely amazing this weekend to watch and observe all of that. So get into more about what he observed Pro Football Hall of Fame weekend, plus latest news around the NFL. You know, the Eagles have their first preseason game this Friday. You can hear all the action. Mel Reese, Mike Quick on the call here on your home in South Jersey for Eagles football, 97.3 ESPN FM. Rob Maaddi covers the NFL for the Associated Press, and they joins us right now here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, welcome back. How you doing?
Hey, Josh, how are you, man? I'm doing well. Back from Ohio, and if you've never been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it was actually my first time. I highly recommend for any football fan out there. It's beautiful there. The museum is incredible, and they're really building up the Hall of Fame Village. Like, they're actually going to put in a water park and a hotel sometime in the next year or so. So I didn't think this would be a kid-friendly environment, but I told my wife when I came back, next time I go, I'm taking you and the kids.
Well, I've been to Ohio 4 times. I've never been to Canton. So it's definitely on the bucket list of things I need to do. But Rob, you were there. Just give me your first takeaways from the weekend, because, obviously Dick Vermeil at the end, he spoke longer than anybody, a crazy amount of humility on Coach Vermeil's part. But, there were a lot of emotional moments from Bryant Young, Sam Mills' wife being there, just a lot of great stuff on Saturday.
Yeah, Josh. And before we get to Dick Vermeil, because actually Dick Vermeil was a welcome at the end, welcome sight, because Bryant Young, man, that was powerful speech. And it was heavy as he talked about his son, his late son, Colby, who passed away. There weren't many dry eyes. I'll tell you right now, I'm an emotional dude. For about 10, 15 minutes, I couldn't even look at my computer. I was just crying as he talked about his son and what he overcame and how, this is a guy who played his position. He spent 14 years with the 49ers. All 14 of his NFL years there, was one of the best defensive tackles in the era when there were a lot of great players at that position. And he waited his turn. He finally got the call to the Hall of Fame, and he used that opportunity, obviously, to thank everyone. He's got 5 children, his wife, who's helped him as he battled back from. He had a devastating leg injury. It was a grotesque injury. Teammate Ken Norton and he collided, and he broke his leg and almost got infected, almost had to lose his leg. But he came back and became a Hall of Fame player. And ironically, he's in the class of 2022, and that was his son's favorite number, 22. So that was beautiful. And one other a funny note I thought earlier before Bryant Young took the stage. Did you notice when Richard Seymour gave his speech, and Richard Seymour he played for the Patriots, he played for the Raiders, he won 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots in his first 4 seasons in the NFL, and they were the first 3 that Tom Brady won as well. And he thanked the defense, and he specifically pointed out the guys, whether it was Mike Vrabel or Ty Law and Bill Belichick and all he did for them. And then he goes to, and we did it with a young quarterback, or in spite of a young quarterback, however it was, without mentioning Tom Brady's name. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then, of course, Dick at the end. No one, I think, expected Dick Vermeil to stick to the 8-minute allotted time frame. And a couple of the other guys went over. Tony Baselli, who was kind of the hometown favorite because the Jaguars played in that game in the Thursday night NFL preseason opener. So there was a lot of Jaguars fans there. There was a lot of number 71 Tony Baselli jerseys, and he went about 12 minutes. And I believe Bryant Young was in the 11-minute range, but Dick blew past that 8-minute mark, and he kept going. And he kept going, and it was 23 plus minutes before Dick Vermeil finally wrapped up at the end. But yeah, I thought it was funny because early on he says, I'm not going to be able to thank everybody in the time that they gave me. And then he proceeds to thank anybody and everybody who has ever come across in his life, including Sal Palantonio twice, who Sal was the presenter when you in a Pro Football Hall of Fame, which I like their format. Josh, you and I have talked about me being a voter for baseball and how that process is and how I think that process is flawed. I think the NFL or the Pro Football Hall of Fame process is a lot better, and there's a presenter. One of the voters presents each guy's case. And you know, I don't think anybody had to really argue hard for Peyton Manning last year. I don't think anyone's going to have to argue hard for Tom Brady 5 years after he retires. But in cases like Dick Vermeil, you have to present a really solid case. And Sal did a great job doing that. And of course, he got some thanks from Dick, along with 974 other people that he's come across in his life.
I will say that I think the one thing I took away from Coach Vermeil's speech, Rob, is that so as somebody who, shall I call it a side hobby, I study human behavior. Like people fascinate me on like a very fundamental level. You notice how many times he repeated himself. Like there were moments he would say somebody's name, repeat again. It was almost like he kept losing his spot on his speech or his notes. I think that he was trying so hard to not break down and cry. Now, I think he kept losing his spot. And that's part of the reason why I think his speech went longer, was because I think he thought, I'm going to hit this in a certain amount of time. And then it just started rolling out of control. I think at one point he was just like, you know what? I'm here. No one's pulling me off this stage. Here we go.
And I think at one point he actually did fumble through the paperwork too, or the speech, the papers. But yeah, he did repeat himself a few times, and I wondered how much of that was losing his spot. He's also 84 years old.
Yeah.
So you know, and to me, it wasn't a matter of at what point. Or is Dick Vermeil going to cry? It's at what point is Dick Vermeil going to tear up?
Right.
And it took a while. He made it all the way till about that 21, 22-minute mark when he finally mentioned his wife, Carol. They've been married 66 years, which is staggering to me. And that's when he finally, right? That's when he finally teared up. And you know what? Nobody's going to be – there were some people, Josh, who were upset that he took so much time. When I say people, I mean in the media, and they looked at and they said, well, how is that fair to guys who did stick to the 8-minute mark? And to that, I say, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to get mad over anybody going over 8 minutes. I'm not going to, if somebody wanted to go an hour and a half, whatever it is, you're there for their moment, for their ceremony. I actually don't like the 8-minute, like this is their time, and now you're trying to fit it into a TV and their timing and everything else. Let's give these guys the time to be grateful for what got them to this. This is the greatest stage, is an individual accolade that you can achieve in professional sports and professional football. And there's always going to be people who are upset. And I thought it did seem kind of it got awkward because he kept going and going. But I felt awkward because I'm in this environment around people who just want him to finish and want him to stop. And I really, at that point, didn't care.
Well, I know part of it is because there's a lot of people who had negative reactions about Ray Lewis taking, 30 minutes? I think it was 4 years ago, whatever he got put in. And I always tell people, like, look, you can look at the time all you want, but I know people who are not diehard sports fans who saw Ray Lewis's speech and they cried. Like, sometimes these speeches are not just about sports, it's about people in life. And to me, that's what I love about Dick Vermeil. The man is so humble. He spends 20 minutes thanking everyone and gives himself zero credit.
Yeah, you're right, and it's a lesson well learned for anyone out there is to pass that credit on to those who helped you reach that point. I think anybody who watches Bryant Young's speech is going to take out of it the incredible way that he was able to overcome the adversity. One, first with the leg injury, but then bigger than that, how he and his family dealt with losing a son. And as a man of faith, as you know, he pointed to God and he pointed to his walk with Christ as how it helped him. And to me, it's unimaginable to go through that pain and still be able to, there are a lot of people who they can go through that and they can go one of two ways. They can get angry, they can get resentful, they can feel like, God, why did you allow this to happen to me and to my family? And then become their heart becomes hardened. But he stood fast and strong to who he is and what he believed in to that point. And it's what it's allowed him to deal with that devastating loss. I don't think there's anything greater. Any parent out there would say there's no greater loss than to have to bury a child and for them to have to deal with that and be able to stand on that stage, put that gold jacket on. I thought that was pretty remarkable. And I don't want to take anything away either, Josh, from everyone out. Leroy Butler kicked it off, and he's a funny dude. And it was really cool to see Leroy just enjoy the moment, embrace the moment, thank the guy who made the bust and saying how well you made him look in that bust and everything else. So I thought it was an awesome moment. It was my first time covering a Hall of Fame game at the Hall of Fame. And I thought it was tremendous. People were like, class of 2022 doesn't have like that big name. That's okay. You came out of that with awesome speeches and genuine moments. And it was cool too. Dick Vermeil alluded to it. Is Andy Reid flying up on Friday to see him at the Gold Jacket dinner?
Yeah, Andy Reid showing a lot of class to honor Dick Vermeil. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press joining us, covers the NFL here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Rob Maaddi on Twitter. Rob, let's get to some latest NFL news. Speaking of injuries, Jameis Winston goes down with an ankle injury. No news yet about exactly how long he's going to be out, but I can tell you one thing. When somebody says, quote, rolled his ankle, which is the words Dennis Allen used, that's not a good sign for a team that their backup quarterback is Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill just lost about 15 pounds.
Yeah, and when you think about what Jameis Winston's coming back from already, the ACL injury that he suffered last year at somewhere near the midpoint of the season, and now he's dealing with that. He's not going to be 100% always in the first year back after an ACL. It's you're feeling your way, you're getting comfortable, and you're not there yet till maybe 18 months post surgery, and he rolls his ankle again. Yeah, like you said, we don't know the severity of that, but they also have a very valuable player who missed all of last season in wide receiver Michael Thomas. And although he's looked great in camp so far, he had to miss all of last year with a severe ankle injury. By no means am I equating what Jameis Winston's going through right now with how severe Michael Thomas's injury was, but it gives you pause for concern if you're a New Orleans Saints fan. I mean, obviously that division goes through Tampa Bay and goes through the Buccaneers, and I don't think they were going to be seriously challenged in the NFC South, but I thought that the Saints could be a team. They had their number in the regular season, and I thought that could be a team that certainly could be in the mix for a wild card berth, but they're going to need Jameis Winston. Now, I kind of like Andy Dalton. I know the last few years he's bounced around, but he had success in Cincinnati, and I think he could be a good stopgap type quarterback, but it's not the same as Jameis was having a pretty good year last year before he went down too.
And don't forget, no more Sean Payton there, so the offense got a completely different apparatus of who's calling the plays, who's mapping things out. I mean, I know Dennis Allen is continuing the Saints tradition, but Sean Payton was an offensive genius. I mean, that guy did a lot of things with those New Orleans teams that I don't know how many other people could have done those things. And you have to wonder, The Eagles own that first round pick of the Saints. Is there a part of the Saints trying to make some business decisions right now?
That's a really interesting way to look at where the Eagles are and the Saints and that pick. Because now you got, for Eagles fans, you have a little bit of skin in the game. You care about how the Saints play or perform and want to see them lose. But I think that you look at what the Saints are going to be able to do, and a lot of it's going to be centered upon, hey, how long is he going to be out for? You're still early in training camp. We still haven't had a preseason game except for the Hall of Fame game. So you still got those 3 weeks left. And sometimes these injuries, it could be a 2 to 3, it could be a 3 to 6, it could be a 4 to 6. We don't know at this point quite now just yet what it is. And for the Saints, they better hope that he comes back and comes back soon. But I never really considered them a legit. They're not a Super Bowl contender. They're a team that's a peripheral on the bubble playoff type team.
Staying in that division with quarterback, I am so fascinated with this Panthers quarterback competition, Rob, because, every time Matt Rule talks about it, or when they let McAdoo talk, because it seems like every time McAdoo talks, he puts his foot in his mouth, but everyone is trying to make this like, oh, it's a competition, blah, blah, blah. But I can't get my mind over the fact that Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield are just completely different places in life right now. And you can tell me how much of a competition it is. I would be shocked if Mayfield doesn't start week 1.
I think more than 90% of the NFL population would feel the same way as you, Josh. They didn't bring in Baker Mayfield to be a backup, and they can say compete all they want here in training camp, and Sam Darnold can look good in all the training camp practices. I don't care. You brought in Baker Mayfield, who's a more accomplished NFL QB at this point. You want to take a full season with him, with a team that is not a playoff contender. This is a team that's in rebuild mode. If they can get to 8-9 wins, that I think would be an extremely successful season for the Carolina Panthers. And they should want to take this entire year to evaluate Baker Mayfield, because they haven't had a quarterback in a few years. And since Cam Newton's heyday, when he was leading them to the Super Bowl and he was MVP of the league back in 15 or 16, I think it was 15. But they got this year for them is all about figuring out what Baker Mayfield is. So you got to start him unless he gets hurt, and you let him play. And you see what he is midway through the season, halfway towards the end of the season, whatever it is, and you decide if he's going to be a guy that you want to bring back, give a contract to, and be your franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future. So Sam Darnold's going to be the backup if he even sticks around in Carolina, and no matter what this competition looks like on paper or however they want to perceive it to be, I think it's Baker Mayfield's job. And if he somehow loses it, that's a colossal, massive failure on his end.
In the last several days with the wide receiver position, we saw Van Jefferson go down. He got injured with the Rams. We saw with the Cowboys, James Washington. We saw Tim Patrick with Denver. But none of those 3 teams immediately made a move. None of them made a trade immediately. None of them made a free agent signing immediately. And there are players to be had out there. So, what do you think the strategy is in those cities? Are those teams saying, hey, we're trying to get through a preseason game or 2 before we make a decision? Or are maybe like the Cowboys position, maybe they're just delusional?
Josh, I think the wide receiver position is one where teams have a lot of depth, right? And you can look around the league and point out, like, the Eagles have some depth. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to cut some guys who are going to be able to play and maybe even start on some teams. So I think that's why you can have a wait and see approach at this point. If you lose, if you're one of those teams that lost the wide receiver, that's down a guy. Plus, you also want to see what those the backups and the guys that you have in camp who've been with you through the OTAs and been with you through mini camp, and some of them have been on the practice squad last year, and give them an opportunity to step up and take over and really be that guy. So I wouldn't look too much into that, because it's still way early. You still got the cut down phases and stages, and the wide receiver position is one where I think you can find help and you can find impactful help throughout training camp off the waiver wire. And that's going to be intriguing to see how. I'm excited to see how it plays out in Philly for sure. You also got a guy in J.J. Arcega-Whiteside who's playing tight end. That's going to be interesting to see what happens with him and his future. So there's a lot of interesting battles at the wide receiver across the league with a lot of teams.
You mentioned the Eagles. One of those, I mean, if I had to hear Nick Sirianni gloat about Britton Covey again, I'm going to just, I mean, most people have no idea who Britton Covey is. Meanwhile, like, college football geeks like me are like, the guy from Utah, like we're just like, it's crazy in the NFL. Like, you're looking up and down the Eagles, the unofficial depth chart that came out today, Rob. And it's like, oh, well, we know who Jalen Reagor is. We know John Hightower, Devin Allen. It's like, oh, Britton Covey.
Yeah. It's funny is that as I'm scanning through and I'm looking around and seeing everybody posting the teams, all their various teams around the league and their unofficial depth chart. Britton Covey is this year's version of, and then you can fill in the blank, right, for training camp, because there's always, especially in Philly, where training camp is so analyzed and scrutinized, and you guys who come out and emerge as favorites. Think of some of the wide receivers along the way over the past several years, guys who've stood out in training camp and never really got an opportunity, never really got a shot. And I hope that he pans out. I know he can return the ball, and that's something that they're looking for this year, somebody who can return. But I don't get too excited over studs in training camp. And I also don't get I don't want to bury anybody over throwing picks and throwing interceptions. And some guys have looked poor, have looked awful. But here's the thing, like when you're seeing beat writers across the league from the various teams, and they're doing their job and they're catering to this obsession with football, it's understandable, and you're going to post everything you see, but you may not necessarily know what the design was on that call, what the play was supposed to be, what they're trying to do. Training camp is an opportunity for players to, you got to practice before you try it in a game. Maybe you make a throw as a quarterback to want to see, can I fit the ball into that small window from this arm angle at this point, and whatever it is. And it ends up being tipped or picked. And I'm not going to walk away from that going, oh, this guy stinks or he's got no future because he's having a bad day. But I see a lot of reports about different guys. In Tampa, for example, I picked them because that's the hometown team right now for me as I'm here. And Kyle Trask is having apparently a rough summer. And to the point, Josh, where he threw a pick that was a return. It was a pick six and in practice, and the team tweeted it on their official Twitter account. But the reaction to that on Trask was so poor, the team then deleted that tweet. And that's right. I mean, this is a guy who shouldn't even. Why would anyone here care right now about Kyle Trask when you got Tom Brady and the negative reaction to him throwing a pick six posted on Twitter ended up being deleted by the team.
Oh my goodness. All right, Rob, before I let you go, you spent a lot of time in the Philadelphia area covering sports. So I want to ask you, and I'm going to leave it completely open-ended for you. The Eagles had over 30,000 people show up for open practice last night. Yesterday, the Phillies honored the 1980 World Series team and had 28,600 people.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that being tossed around on social media. And as an NFL writer, but growing up, baseball was my first love, Josh, and baseball has been my biggest passion in sports, and I love covering the NFL. But man, I do miss the ballpark. I do miss that environment. I miss everything about it. And there's nothing like playoff postseason baseball, a red October, that opportunity to cover the Phils from 2007 to 2011 when they were going to the playoffs and they were winning their World Series and going to the World Series again. It was just electric. It was awesome. And I loved every everything about that. And of course, a lot of that had to do with Utley and Rollins and Howard and Hamels and the team that they had assembled. But this team on paper right now, and they're playing well. It looks like a club that can do some damage if they indeed get to the postseason with Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. Now you got Noah Syndergaard. You also got Kyle Gibson, who's capable any given start going out there. And what was he, perfect through 6 innings the other night? This is a team that can do some damage in the postseason. Now they just have to get there. And to be able to be where they are right now without Bryce Harper, it just disappoints me that it's Sunday. You're honoring the 1980 World Series championship team. It's alumni weekend. I know it's hot. I know it's humid. I know that people are probably down the shore and doing all that stuff and everything else. And maybe they just want to get back home for the weekend and they come back to the link for the Eagles at night. But you would hope that there's 30 plus at a Sunday afternoon to see them finish off a sweep. It's just extremely disappointing. That's the only way I could look at it.
He's Rob Maaddi. He is the host of Faith on the Field, which you can hear Saturdays and Sundays right here on 97.3 ESPN. He covers the NFL for the Associated Press at Rob Maaddi on Twitter. He joined us today on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, I asked you 0 Deshaun Watson questions. You're welcome.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that, Josh.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN FM. We'll check in on the text board, 609-403-0973 on the text board. Also, you could DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles open the 2022 preseason this Friday night, hosting the New York Jets at the Link.
Wilson is being chased and sacked. Oh, is he smacked down?
Pre-game coverage starts at 6:30 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7:30. This is where the Philadelphia Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's official Eagles station.
The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help troubleshoot the likely cause of your pesky check engine light for free and get you back on the road. Restrictions apply. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
We get it. You're not going to work just anywhere. You're smart, you're ambitious, and you want to help others. You want a place where you can thrive, feel fulfilled, and have an opportunity for growth, all while making an incredible living. Right now is the perfect time to join the team at Town Square Media as a marketing consultant. Join one of the fastest growing digital companies in America, where you get to help build client solutions with real local influencers and sell brands like TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. If this sounds exciting to you, let's have a conversation. Our comp package is amazing with unlimited earning potential, including base salary, mobile phone, auto expense, 401k match, trip incentives, and more. If you're competitive, driven, and have the ability to communicate great ideas, we'd love to hear from you. With digital advertising expected to double over the next 3 years, the timing could not be better. Reach out to Mike Rubel, Market President, at 609-910-5249 or visit careers.townsquaremedia.com. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
New message. Hey, girlfriend, it's Carol from jury duty. We never actually spoke, but I saw you ordered the same hoagie as me at lunch. What are the chances? Anywho, I heard you just got a boat. We should totally grab some hoagies and take it out for a spin.
When you get a boat, you also get new friends. Make sure Progressive's one of them and get coverage today for as little as $100 a year.
Do I want to feel the wind in my hair? Guilty as charged. Oh, seriously, let's ride on your boat.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Staples has everything for school at great prices. So this year you won't go back to school. You'll be ready to move forward and build that papier-mâché volcano.
I am not cleaning this up.
Ooh, yeah, I meant the kids. Staples will help them move forward. Right now, Crayola 10-count markers and 12-count colored pencils are just 99 cents each, and Staples 1-subject notebooks are only 35 cents. Everything on your list at amazing prices. Staples, we're not going back. We're going forward to school. Ends 8/27 in-store only, limit 30.
This should be 8x7.
When it comes to closets, Janina's home organization business runs tip-top tidy.
Is this schedule right? I'm going to need help.
But she needs to reorganize and find a new assistant.
I know it's your last week, but can you make sure the Hanson pantry's wrapped?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, Tom Bodette with a shout out to Uncle Rick. You know him. He shows up at the family reunion in a muscle shirt without muscles, stealing noses off the kids' faces. He brings a nugget of wisdom, too, like staying at Motel 6. They have clean, comfortable rooms where he can kick off his flip-flops and great low rates, which is handy since he's always saving up for a speedboat or something. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you, Rick.
New Jersey car owners, with interest rates rising, the current value of your trade is about to plummet. So drive directly to Matt Blatt Nissan because AJ the Trade Man needs your trade.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
So cash in your vehicle now before it's too late and drive home in a new Nissan today with 0 down and 0 payments for 90 days and 1.9% financing for 36 months on every new Nissan in stock or en route. Just because you don't see your new Nissan on the lot doesn't mean you can't drive it home tomorrow. New 2022 Nissan Armada. Get $5,000 off MSRP, $61,885, and drive away with peace of mind with Matt Blatt Nissan's 4-day love it or leave it return policy. MattBlattNissan.com. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. Interest accrues from date of sale. Not all will qualify. MSRP $61,875. VIN N9677-417. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 9/4/22. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
You heard me mention to Rob Maaddi about the depth chart where the Eagles' unofficial but official depth chart is out. I say official because the Eagles, letterhead and all that stuff on it. It comes from the Eagles organization. Unofficial because it was comprised by the people who work in the PR department, not by the coaches. So, but a couple of interesting notes on the depth chart before we get to your thoughts and comments on the text board at 609-403-0973. Also, your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. A couple interesting notes. Number one, if you go by the depth chart, Jalen Reagor is currently a top 6 receiver on this team. Your top 3 are kind of what you would expect. A.J. Brown, Quez Watkins, Devonta Smith. And then after those 3 is Zach Pascal, Greg Ward, and Jalen Reagor. So on the outside looking in, Reagor is in a top 6 position. So even though Nick Sirianni has spoken glowingly of Britton Covey and how, according to reports, Deion Kane has looked really good in training camp, it seems to be that Reagor is fighting with 5 other guys to make the roster right now. Barring any injury, I'm assuming that your top 4 receivers, no matter what, are going to be A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on the outside, and either Watkins or Pascal in the slot. Reagor is either going to barely make this roster, or I got a feeling it might get traded. I really do. Eagles also, the other thing I want to stood out to me was they list, now hear me out. The linebacker situation is they list a Sam, a Mike, and a Will, but we already know that Reddick is going to be an edge rusher. He's not going to be a pure linebacker. So it looks like what they're calling the Sam on this depth chart is actually the edge linebacker because it's Reddick, and behind him is Patrick Johnson and Kyron Johnson. Well, both of those Johnsons are 2 guys whose greatest skill set is like Reddick coming off the edge and blitzing. So it looks like from the Eagles' perspective that those two Johnsons are fighting for the backup job behind Reddick. Meanwhile, currently TJ Edwards is listed as the number one Mike linebacker next to Kazir White. So if the season started, tomorrow, the assumption would be that Edwards and White would be your two primary linebackers. Now, Nakobe Dean is right behind Edwards. Davion Taylor is right behind White. So we'll see how this plays out, if this changes at all, because in an ideal world, I think the Eagles want Nakobe Dean to be an impact player sooner or later because of what his talents and his skills are. All right, squeeze in message on the text board. Earlier we talked about, my reasoning why people aren't going to the Phillies game. Tim and Cape May says the Jersey Shore is just as expensive, if not more, than going to a Phillies game. Well, sure. If you go to, if you want to run a Bay House in Avalon or Ocean City, or you want to, get certain houses at Cape May to stay in, you're going to be spending crazy amounts of money. But the point is, Tim, as I said earlier, is that people are making decisions because of how expensive everything is now, because of inflation, and because, there's a lot of people who lost their jobs and livelihoods because of the COVID lockdown. There's a lot of people who don't have the same level of income they used to. So now the decisions are, do I go to a Phillies game this weekend or I go to the Jersey Shore? I think for a lot of people, from my observation, they went to the Jersey Shore this weekend. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great night.
The best way to wake up is with Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.